live a happy, confident and successful life, then there are certain things that make it easier. Understanding that it's all about choice. Everything that we do is a choice. Even not choosing is a choice. And every choice has consequences. When you choose to do it, how you choose to do it, and whether you choose to do it at all, minute by minute, we make those choices which impact on the quality of our life. Our choices are determined by the quality of our thinking. And our thinking is 95% habitual. Our thinking is governed by our beliefs. And many of those are created when we're very, very young. And those beliefs can be empowering or not. Now, I actually believe that disability is a metaphor for life. Many people have beliefs about being too short, not enough hair, not pretty enough, too fat, not enough money, not enough time. My disability is I can't walk very far. But the great thing is that I have a wheelchair, and the fact I can't walk doesn't impact that much on my life. Certainly not as much as it would if you had a belief that was holding you back. Our beliefs are generally installed when we're very young. And once they're installed, we then look for evidence to make them correct. So let me give you an example of what I mean. Imagine a park, and in that park there are two people and one dog. The dog approaches the first person and they think, "God, wonderful dog, just like Mickey, my dog when I was young." As the dog approaches them, they welcome it. The dog wags, and their belief that all dogs are friendly is reinforced. Now, the other person had a really bad experience when they were young. So when the dog approaches them, they're fearful, they squeal, the dog gets frightened, and the dog starts to growl. Their belief that all dogs are dangerous is also confirmed. So whatever belief we have, we'll make that right, and in the doing of it, it becomes our reality. Now, it's not until that reality is challenged that beliefs can be dispelled. Most of you will be aware that Roger Bannister ran a 4-minute mile. He was the first guy to do it. What many of you may not know is that he had been warned by the medics that if you ran that fast, you would die. Not you might, but they were convinced that you wouldn't be able to breathe enough oxygen to keep running. Now, that he actually ran that fast in the first instance, I think is amazing. But what I find even more interesting is that within 30 days of him running the 4-minute mile, over 30 other people had also run that fast. Their beliefs had been shaken, and so they had decided that it was worth the risk. And if you think about it, it's the reason that we moved from a belief that the earth is flat to the earth is round. So before I go on, I'd like to share with you a little bit about my story. At Christmas time in 1982, I was bought a pair of new skis. Now, I don't know how many of you ski, but those of you that do these days will ski on short skis. The wisdom of those days was that the longer the better, and I made the choice to buy a longer pair of skis than I was used to, about 10 centimetres longer. I went away at half-term with friends, and I spent the whole of that week wrestling with that extra 10 centimetres of ski. On the Thursday, I'd had a really bad fall, and so I decided that I was going to leave my friends and go and ski on my own on the Friday morning. I needed to regain the confidence. So we were in St. Anton in Austria. It's a beautiful area. And so on the Friday morning, I took myself off to St. Christoph to go and ski and to get some confidence back. It was an absolutely glorious day. The sky was blue and the sun was shining brightly. The mountains looked like mauve monoliths. Everywhere was glistening with bright snow. I skied gently all the morning and I met my friends for lunch. They'd found a new run and they said to me, "Please come with us." Another choice. I decided to go with them. We went up on the ski lift. Just imagine how it is as you gradually move from the valley floor, how the sound just drifts away. It gets quieter and quieter, until all you can hear is the soft shh as skis go past far below. I enjoyed the views, and as we got off, they took the turn and they went left. Another choice, one that was to have a profound effect on the rest of my life. As we skied round the corner, we came to the top of a very, very challenging slope. The village was down at the bottom, and we were at the top, and between us there was a field of moguls. Now, you may be aware of what a mogul is, but for those that don't, it's where the snow is carved out by the weather, and moguls can be very short, 2 or 3 inches, but these were monsters. They were 6 feet tall. I had no choice. I had to take a deep breath, and I had to ski down. The first third went quite well. You had the mogul field, and at the side you had fresh powder snow. Anyone who's skied and has been a bit nervous will know there comes a point when you've just got to turn because the slope is running out. I left it quite late and I went into the powder snow and I fell. It took me about 20 minutes to retrieve my skis, and I then skied down to where my friends were sitting, each of them sitting on a mogul, rather like an elf sitting on a mushroom. I joined them, took my skis off, and we were sitting there talking, just having a nice time, when suddenly the mogul gave way and I started to rotate out and I began to fall. Over and over I tumbled. The only thing I was aware of was the sound of someone screaming. It was me. And then the world went black. I don't know how long I lay there, but gradually people skied to me, bringing a glove here, a stick there, my hat, my glasses. I was completely disoriented. Eventually my friends arrived and they helped me, and I decided that I was okay to ski to the bottom of the slope. And gradually we made our way down there. That night was pretty difficult because I kept falling and I couldn't sleep. But we were travelling home that day, and so I managed to get on the coach. When I arrived home, my mum took one look at me and carted me off to the local hospital. I was diagnosed with concussion and I'd trapped something in my neck. I went to school on the Monday. I didn't know who I was and was talking complete gibberish. And of course, there are those that would argue that there was no change there. I was sent home, and over the next few days and weeks, I began to recover. I was back at school within a few days, wearing a soft collar. Now, 4 weeks after this, I was due to take a group of children skiing with the school, 156 children to be exact. I was given the okay by my GP that I could go because we had a GP coming with us on the party. I was given the okay by the GP that I could actually go on the ski trip because we had a doctor coming with us. I worked all week, gradually feeling more and more like Quasimodo. And on the last day, it was the children's opportunity to do their medals. It became more and more difficult. And by the end of the day, I had completely had it. So I finally gave in. I said to one of my colleagues, I can't manage. I'm going to lie on the bed. I actually don't know how I managed to get onto the top bunk. But very quickly, I realised that my right side was completely paralysed. And I was frightened. Just imagine how it feels when suddenly your body won't do what you expect it to do. I didn't want to call out. I didn't want to frighten the children. I had to wait until somebody came, and it seemed like an inordinately long time. Then all hell broke loose. An ambulance was called and I was carted off to hospital. 5 days later, I was flown home, and it took some time for me to recover, but by May, I was back in school. I was still struggling. I did school, and I went home, and I slept. But I managed. On the 8th of August, 1993, I got a phone call. It was to say that John Hughes, the head of the school where I had only been a deputy for a year, had suddenly died. I was then acting head. In the following term, they did interviews but didn't appoint. And in the January 1984, I was appointed head of the school. My health wasn't great, but I was determined to make a great success of it. I was determined that whatever my health was like, the school was going to do well. That was another choice. Over the next 5 years, they looked for damage from the accident because my health continued to deteriorate. I was hospitalised several times, and eventually they decided that they were never going to find it, and so I decided that I was going to keep away from doctors for a while. In 1996, on the last day of the summer term, I sneezed, and as I did, I felt something ping in my back. I realised it wasn't good, and I was in a lot of pain, but that actually wasn't unusual. By the next day, I couldn't move. They discovered that I'd burst a disc in my back. When I woke up after the operation, I found that I couldn't put my weight of the left foot onto the floor, otherwise I fainted, and I had to become a really good stalk. It took me 18 months to learn to walk just to the bottom of the garden, and my garden's not big. I'd continued to work at school, and school was doing well. Fast forward 2 years to 1998, the last day of the summer term. I think you can see the theme there. I wasn't feeling very well. I got home and I was sick. I heard and felt something go in my back. This time, I realised that there was something seriously wrong and went straight to A&E. I'd ruptured another disc. When I woke up, I was completely wheelchair bound. I couldn't walk at all. I couldn't bear any weight of any clothing or anything on my legs. Now I had another choice to make. I could stay at home and be disabled, but my decision was to go to school and to work and be useful. My brain, my mouth, and my hands worked perfectly well. So within a few days of coming out of hospital, I was back at work part-time, and within a month, I was back full-time. The choice to be useful and productive, to actually focus on what I could do rather than what I couldn't, was what made the real difference. And there's been an enormous gift in that. I couldn't actually physically get into most of my classrooms. The difficulty was that even if I had got through the door, I couldn't get round the furniture. Now, in every situation, there's a gift. If you look for it, you'll always find it. There's been a huge gift that's come out of my disability. And that gift has been the way in which leadership was developed at Parkland School. I encouraged people to take responsibility and ownership for their own performance. We had a shared collective view of what excellent was, and we had a structured sequential programme for professional development. The outcome, that Parkland School was designated to be one of the top 100 schools in the country, not once, but twice during my headship. I'd like to think that if I had not had a disability, I would have come up with the same thing. But in reality, I don't think that's the case. Since I left headship in 2004, I've used the same principles of developing leadership in countless organisations, and it's worked for everybody. I'd like to think that had I had no disability, I would have still created a similar sort of programme for leadership. The reality is I'll never know whether I would have handed over control to those people or whether I'd have wanted to control it myself. But there are other principles that have come out of this, and these are the ones I use with clients. So, firstly, take responsibility for your own emotional well-being and for everything that you do, the way in which you do it, when and how, and if you choose not to do it. Be mindful. The quality of your thinking makes an enormous difference. If you believe you're going to fail, it's a done deal. If you're fearful of failing, you're going to make a very different set of decisions to if you believe you're going to succeed. You don't actually need to know how you're going to succeed in the first place. But if your mindset is one of success, then you're halfway there. Challenge any belief that holds you back. I was on a course once and we did the fire walk. And for those people who don't know what a fire walk is, that you're in your bare feet and you walk across hot coals. Now, at that time, I could walk very few steps, and I was absolutely thrilled to be able to do it. Before I'd done the fire walk, I'd wanted to go on a course that was going on in America, but I was fearful that I couldn't manage in the wheelchair, and that how would I go about getting there, and how was it going to work? Having done the fire walk, I turned round and the guy behind me was a double amputee. He had no legs from the knee down. He tipped himself up onto his hands and he did a fire walk on his hands. I was, to use the Parklands parlance, gobsmacked. I was humbled, and what it made me realise is that I self-limited, and I expect that pretty well everybody in this room is self-limiting too. If you believe you can succeed, you can. I went straight out, I booked my air ticket and I booked the course. I had a fabulous time, and I've been on many occasions to North and South America on courses by myself since. I've learnt that I can do what I set my mind on. Another principle is choose to be happy. Lots of people say I'll be happy when I've got the big car, I've got the great job, I've got the perfect partner. I suggest you do the funky chicken test. As you wake up in the morning, you do the funky chicken, and if you can't feel the sides of your coffin, realise it's a new day and choose to be happy. Now, it makes you smile, and that's a pretty good way to start the day anyway. Remember that relationships are important, really important. Value them. Tell the people that you love and care about that you love them and care about them often. My brother David suddenly died just before his 50th birthday. One of the things that he was incredibly good at was sending little texts saying, "Love ya," or "thinking about you." I can't tell you how precious those things are. Life is precious. Live every day as if it's your last. Make the most of it. Know the power of thank you. I was once at a meeting in London and I went into the ladies' loos, and they were pretty grim. There were papers everywhere. When I went back in the first break, there was a tiny little lady who was actually cleaning them, and everything looked gleaming. I went over to her and said, "Thank you, you've made a fabulous job." And I watched this little lady, she was literally 4'8", grow in stature because somebody had recognised the value of what she'd done. Please don't underestimate the power of thank you. And lastly, be grateful. Collect gratitudes. Gratitude has the power to change your life. These are the principles I use, and I use when I'm working with clients. And I'd really urge you to think about using them too. Even one or two of them will make a difference if you do them consistently. Thank you.